Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking Teofimo Lopez. We're going to be talking Bam Rodriguez, previewing Fisher Babic, and a number of other brilliant fights, as well as talking some of the big talking points in the world of boxing at the moment. For me, there is literally nowhere else to start than Bam Rodriguez because that performance as a whole has completely blown me away. Everyone listening or watching on YouTube, let us know in the comment section whether or not you think Bam needs to be put in that conversation, top five pound for pound. But Ben, obviously you've been away for a little while. You've made your comeback. What did you make of that fight?
Yeah, very impressive. It's nice to be back, by the way. No, I've had 2 weeks of not listening to Harry, but no, I'm looking
Oh,
forward
come
to
on
it
now.
again now.
There's no need for that
Uh,
low blow there. Wow.
Ben had 2 weeks to plan that joke, 2 whole weeks.
in terms of Bam Rodriguez, very good, and he's put himself right to the top of the super flyweight division now. I personally, I can't see anyone that beats him at that weight class. I think the only way he gets beaten is if he moves up weight divisions.
Yeah, well, I think back a couple of years ago he moved up a weight division, didn't he? Challenging on late notice. I can't remember the fighter he fought, but like you said, it was an unbelievable performance by him, and it was a sort of a passing the torch moment, weren't it, on Saturday night with Estrada? I was expecting a bit more from him, but Bam Rodriguez, wow. Like you said earlier on, Sam, he's definitely in my top five pound for pound at the moment. He dropped him in the fourth, he hurt him in the third, he was comfortable, and then I think Estrada knocked him down in the sixth, and he was like, "Listen, mate, you're battering me, but here's one. Calm down a little bit." And then obviously that body shot. There's no better finish in boxing than a nice body shot. And yeah, I think we've got a new pound for pound number one incoming in the next couple of years. Because let's not forget, he's only what 24, so he's got plenty of years left in boxing, and he's already in the talk for number in the top five. And imagine in 10 years' time where he would be. He could be the number one. And yeah, it's just good to see another. It was a decent fight as well. Crowd were really good, and yeah, Bam Rodriguez is something special, and I look forward to watching what comes next for him.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think I said a few weeks back when Tank Davis fought that I'd always sort of doubted whether or not he was in around that sort of pound for pound picture. And after that fight, I said, yeah, definitely. Now, I think Bam Rodriguez is that man in terms of if you're talking outside of the multi weight division champions. So I'm talking Canelo, Inoue, Crawford, and then obviously Alexander Usyk up at heavyweight. Outside of those guys, I think you struggle to find a name that's more deserving of that sort of number five pound for pound spot than Bam. I mean, he has it all. He's got the footwork, he's got the power at that low weight, just everything, and just an all round dominant display over an Estrada that's, like you say, he's an old guy. He knows he's been around the game for a long time. He's not had many losses, and certainly not many, if any at all, in that manner with that much confidence.
He was never dropped before as a pro, and he's been dropped before, but he hasn't been dropped in a while. And yeah, for Bam to get the stoppage is unbelievable. And you look at the judges' scorecards as well. I don't know if you boys seen, but some of the judges had him, drawing going into that round eight, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And when you look at that round six where Bam got knocked down, I gave that round a 9-9 because he got knocked down and then he still won the round. So yeah, he's a generational talent. He is Bam Rodriguez, but I think that scorecards, yeah, they need looking at. If I'm being completely honest, there.
Yeah, one scorecard had him losing. Never mind just drawing a fight.
I genuinely don't think I give him a round, and I don't mean that in a like disrespectful way. He was a brilliant fighter. He just didn't. He just wasn't as good as Bam, and it was noticeable. What I found really impressive as well is Bam is now officially he's the most accurate puncher. So he's got the total. Sorry, on the CompuBox stats, he's got the most punches connected percentage. He's got the most jab percentage connected and the most power shots connected percentage. He's the most accurate, the most efficient fighter in world boxing, which, like you say, at 24 is something to say.
It's unbelievable. 24 years old and he's doing stuff like this, and we're already talking about him being in the top 5 pound for pound list with the names of Alexander Usyk, Inoue, Crawford, Canelo Alvarez, and then he's number 5 now. Because if you look at the other names, Beterbiev, Bivol, he deserves to be in the top 5, don't he? Let's be honest. If he's not in your top 5, do you know boxing? But the fight I was looking at on Twitter before we went live, Inoue and him would be one hell of a fight, and that's probably a fight that I'm sure Turki Alalshikh is looking at right now and thinking, yeah, I wouldn't mind hosting that in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it's sort of be interesting to see who wants to go in there with him next.
Yeah. There's not many names out there, is there, really? You know?
No, definitely not. Is it if I was see soon though? Because obviously, Bam is down at super flyweight and or flyweight for this one, I think it was, but super flyweight. No, super flyweight for this one, and Inoue's up at super bantam. So there is that weight division in between them. Obviously, Inoue, the talk is of him, continuing up, if anywhere. I almost see that in sort of 3-4 years' time being a bit of a sort of passing of the torch moment, where Inoue sort of hands over that sort of those pound for pound reigns over to Bam, if obviously he keeps up at the rate he is and is able to move up through those divisions.
Definitely, 100% there. We saw Sonny Edwards' performance. He made it look easy against Curiel. Do we see that rematch maybe next as another, just a warm fight? Because I don't think he got knocked down, but he didn't take much punishment, did he, Bam? So he could be out in the next couple of months, but yeah, it's one hell of a performance, and yeah, I can't wait to see what happens next. And Barry Jones was there. That was another good thing. Barry Jones, all throughout the build up to this fight, kept on saying this is the best fight of the year. And whilst it lasted, it was definitely going in that direction of definitely being one of the fights of the year. The way they were both coming back at each other. Estrada dropped him early in that round 6, and part of me thought, oh, here we go. Here's the experience now. He's let the kid start early, and he'll get the later rounds, but obviously not. And yeah, wow. That's all you can say is wow, and you can look at it and one word that comes to mind, and I use it a lot, unbelievable. That's one of them. And, I can't see anyone beating him. I can't see anyone at the moment.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree. It's hard to disagree and find someone that might. And you mentioned his name, obviously. Sonny Edwards fought Curiel, as you mentioned. Curiel just off the back of a pretty dramatic loss to Nonshinga. I can't remember when that was, towards the back end of it, or was it early this year? But that was, like you said, it was a really impressive performance from Sonny. And when you look at, how Sonny looked against Bam and then how he's looked against Curiel, but we'll move on from Bam because, I think we don't need a 45 minutes of telling everyone how good he is. But Sonny Edwards equally was really, really impressive, I thought, against Curiel, and did really well to fight through what was a horrible, horrible cut in the 6th, I think it was, it happened.
Yeah, it was a really impressive performance. It was just a shame, I think, like you said, with a cut. I had him winning every round, and I think he was winning the fight comfortably, but yeah, a shame with a cut, really, and you could see he was upset. I think after the fight that he sort of had to get a win that way, but yeah, he's looked to have set up a big British fight now with Galaliafy next, so that'll be an interesting one to watch. I think two people very highly skilled, and I think it'd be a close one to call between them two, to be honest.
Yeah, I can. That's a tough fight to call. I think that's a proper 50-50. But that cut, I was quite thankful that the doctor stopped it, and I think his coaches were as well for Sonny Edwards. Because let's go back a couple of months. Tim Tszyu, remember his cut? And he lasted 12 rounds. You didn't want to see that again. And, I was quite thankful that it stopped. And, yeah, listen, it was a good performance. I can't believe he was showboating a lot as well. That was the other thing. I thought I was watching Ben Whittaker on Saturday night. But, yeah, it was a good performance. And it's nice to see him go back to the scene of the crime where he lost his first professional fight, where he got stopped by Bam. And yeah, that Jalal fight is incredible. That's we talk about domestic British fights in a lot on this podcast, and that is definitely one that has got fight of the year potential written all over it.
Yeah, like you say, Sonny was very, very good in that fight, and the I want to say confidence, but I also mean arrogance, but in a way that's not. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a way of to walk into there where you've got that first loss of your career in pretty, emphatic fashion, and the crowd's booing you because they prefer your opponent, and you're running around and you're making him look silly, and yeah, that confidence, that arrogance to go, yeah, this is me, this is what I do, and this is how I'm going to beat you and to do it is next level. You've really got to respect the way he's bounced back from that loss and the cut. I'm surprised it wasn't stopped at the end of the sixth, let alone at the end of the seventh. The fact it took to the end of the eighth round for it to stop, it was a proper nasty one from a clash of heads. But like I say, he got through it, and that Year 5 fight, oof, that is going to be a good fight. It's two fighters we've never seen look like they were going to be beaten, two fighters that never really look like they're going to be outboxed, and one of them's going to have to beat the other. So that's really exciting to see.
The other thing is as well with Sonny Edwards, who I can't remember any boxer that when they get their first professional loss, go back to where they lost in someone's backyard, because let's be honest, Phoenix, Arizona was Mexico City for the weekend, because it was an unbelievable atmosphere there. And to do it in the way he did it, fair play to him. And, you look at that Year 5 fight, it's a tough one to call, ain't it? That's a proper 50-50.
Yeah, I don't want to make an early call.
Oh, if you make an early call, you're very brave. You're very brave making an early call in that fight.
I don't know where the plans are, if there are any sort of concrete ones in place of where to do that, but it doesn't really matter. Anywhere in the UK, that will be, a really brilliant fight. And I do hope it is in the UK, whenever and wherever that is. Maybe I'm trying to think. It's probably too big and too soon for the Catchall Pro Grade card. So I really don't know where that one is going to go. The other fight that me and Harry actually talked about in probably more detail than I expected us to, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, was Yamaleth Mercado versus Ramla Ali. And the reason I bring this up is because it's the reason I won the predictions last week, not backing the Brit for that one. But I don't know what you boys thought of Ali's performance over the course of it.
I don't know how you describe it. I wanted to see more from her. I thought she was a bit too relaxed in it, but yeah, well done on winning the predictions. I wasn't surprised, let's be honest, when I woke up and saw the result. I wasn't surprised because she has lost already as a pro. She obviously got that loss back, but yeah, it was a very good performance. Some people are saying that she could have won it. Some people called it a draw. It's how you like your boxing. Do you like someone coming forward, or do you like someone actually staying on the back foot and boxing? You could easily, there's arguments to both sides, but yeah, listen, the right person won in my opinion, and like some of the judges' scorecards we did see on that night. But like I said, I wanted to see more from Ramla Ali for a first world title fight. Yeah, but I think now she's lost that, she has to come back to domestic level potentially, or she can rematch her. But I think bring her back down. Like I said a lot last week, her and Emma Dolan is the fight to make for Britain. That's the fight. That's a comeback fight and a half. If she wins that, that's a massive win on her career then, and then she can go back up and challenge for a world title shot.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I think that is the fight to make.
I was just going to say, it's not a fight that I've caught up on this weekend yet, but in terms of the predictions, I'm looking forward to getting back into them this weekend and regaining my crown. What predictions are we doing?
That's all he was thinking about. That was all he was thinking about when he was in Greece. That was all he was thinking about. He was thinking, I've given them 2 weeks now. They're gonna go on top of me, but I didn't even win anything. I'm rubbish when it comes to these sort of things.
Were you on last week's? We shared one apiece. It was shared one apiece, which I guess is fair. It's just you lose a point basically for going on holiday. I think that seems a fair. And obviously Harry's going to get the same punishment when he's away next weekend. But what I was going to say with that one is Yamaleth Mercado, I think, probably is going to get the Ellie Scotney fight, which I think is a really good fight. for Ellie Scottney, then she can pick up another world title. And then if Ramla Ali and Emma Dolan fight for that world title, then that just sets up an unbelievable fight then between Ellie Scottney and either Emma Dolan or Ali, which that's a brilliant female domestic clash. And like you say, we always go on about domestic clashes, but yeah, that's a fight I want to see.
Definitely, 100%.
Have you had a chance to catch up as well on Teofimo Lopez versus Steve Claggett, which I thought was an interesting fight? It wasn't. I wasn't sure what to make of it. I think on paper Teofimo Lopez was a comfortable favourite, but actually the fight itself was a really brilliant one to watch, even though the scorecards were so wide in the end.
I think that was the worrying part for me when looking at the scorecards before watching the fight. I thought, yeah, this is going to be a very one-sided fight, like what we saw with Jared Anderson a couple of weeks ago. But it was a very competitive fight, in my opinion. Steve Claggett, he came to fight and he came to win. And, it wasn't a stepping stone fight. Teofimo Lopez would take a lot from it. And it was a very good fight. For me, that was probably, of all the fights this weekend, that was probably the second best fight I watched of the weekend. And it was nice to see Teofimo Lopez back in the ring. And where does he go now from there? Because he's got 12 rounds banked there. He didn't, well, on one judge's scorecard, I want to say he lost a round. On the others, he didn't lose a round, which I thought was a bit harsh for Steve. But yeah, it was a very good performance. And wasn't, I want to get this right, Muhammad Ali's grandson was on the undercard as well, and he did something to his shoulder in his last round of his fight. I think that was one of the big talking points from it as well.
Yeah, he was on the undercard, but in terms of Teofimo Lopez, he won obviously quite comfortably on the scorecards, but I think he had a bit of backlash on social media for not getting the stoppage, and I think that's 2 fights in a row now that he hasn't got a stoppage victory, and has had a bit of backlash from other American fighters. But yeah, like we said, this next fight now would be interesting. I think he's aiming, or we've been waiting in terms of Teofimo for a big American clash now next, a big world title fight with someone. I'm not exactly sure who it's going to be, because the American fighters just seem to go back and forth all the time and are always beefing each other. But yeah, I think a big fight out in America for him again next, and maybe a world title unification fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really harsh, I think, if you watch that performance of Teofimo Lopez and criticize him for it. Because I think Steve Claggett brought a really good fight. He brought the kind of fight that you wanted or you needed to be able to beat someone like Teofimo Lopez. But ultimately, although Teofimo Lopez didn't have the fight on his terms, how he maybe would have wanted the fight, he won at Claggett's fight, basically. He was smarter. He was able to find the better work. He was able to find that uppercut and shots like that amongst the sort of inside work. And what was a lot of pressure from Steve Claggett. And I think Teofimo Lopez actually outpunched Claggett. And he's known to being this huge puncher that punches lots and lots of punches. And Lopez isn't that fighter, but he realised, in order to win this fight, I might not be able to box my own game, but I'm just going to box his game better than him. And for me personally, I think better of Teofimo Lopez now than I did before the fight, rather than perhaps what other people are saying, which is the other way around.
100%. He looked so good in there, didn't he, Saturday night? And I was just looking at some names that he could potentially face next. Richardson Hitchens could be a barnstormer there at super light. But yeah, it's great to see him boxing again, because then he lost, what's his name? George Kambosos Jr. beat him, and everyone was shocked after that performance. And people were saying, oh, he'll never come back and all that. But he's slowly but surely climbing back up the ladder. He's got his WBO world super light on him, and yeah, I think a big, do you call it, is it domestic? Yeah, we'll call it domestic American fight over in the States with him and Hitchens could be a good one. Top rank against Matchroom there, but Turki Alalshikh probably have a word with both promoters and he could probably make that happen, because what we saw last week in Wembley, Sam, and was unbelievable, weren't it? 4 promoters, the 4 biggest promoters in Britain working together on one card. It's great to see, ain't it now? Promoters finally coming together, gelling, and putting the fights that were only, we were talking about a lot as a fantasy, they're all becoming true now, and yeah, it's great to see.
I just
You
want to
can rub it
say
in now, the
that was
fact that
a
you were at Wembley.
unbelievable. Yeah, it's nuts, but that was an unbelievable segue from you, Harry. There, that's the kind of things that I've
Yeah, it
spent
was.
the last like minute of you talking coming up with, and you've just pulled out the hat. I'm surprised but impressed at the same time. Yeah, Wembley, we were down
Listen,
there.
some
There's
people
interviews
want
up
to
on
do
the
this for a
channel.
living.
Okay, okay, yeah. There's levels to this game.
We're professionals here.
Um,
We're professional. Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, we were down at Wembley, and like I said, there's some interviews up on the channel. There's some content up on the channel, and me and Harry have done quite an in-depth preview on a separate video. Stood outside Wembley, which was quite fun to do. It was just something a little bit different. But otherwise, obviously Ben as well. We haven't really had to have a chat with you properly about the card. What do you think of the card? What do you think of everything? And if there's any questions about sort of like the press conference and stuff that we maybe saw there, because obviously you weren't, I'm not rubbing this in, but you weren't able to make it.
Yeah, no, I was gutted not to be there, and but in terms of the card, it looks brilliant from top to bottom, really, all the way leading up to that main event with AJ and Dubois, which many people are thinking it's a bit one-sided, but after Dubois' recent performances, I wouldn't be so sure. And it's got a bit of bite about it as well now after that sit-down interview they done. So it's got me very excited to watch that one.
I just can't believe the card. We were talking, when we Sam? Willie Hutchinson, Joshua Boatsi is a fight. It's a bet, in my opinion, after watching Hutchinson's performance against what was his name, Craig Richards. That's a better fight than Boatsi Yard now. And Warrington Kakache, Sam's favourite fight, probably on the card. I had to pull him back when Josh Warrington came up on stage. No one saw that. I was holding him back, and then you look at the other fights on the card. Tyler Denny, he's living in a dream right now, ain't he? He fought against Felix Cash. 72 hours later, he's on his way to Wembley for a massive press conference, and it's life-changing for him. People said that fight against Felix Cash was life-changing, with the money he would earn from that, being on DAZN and all that, etc. But all these fighters now who are on there for the first time, I think his name's Josh Padley. We were talking, that's probably the only fight that we were a little bit disappointed about. But he's got a massive opportunity, and he's getting a massive payday now. And he could cause an upset. I don't see it happening, but I think out of all the fights on the card, that's probably the easiest one to call. But you look at the rest of the fights on there, and it's unbelievable. Liam Smith and Josh Kelly, again, very good fight. Probably if Liam Smith loses that's it. And yeah, I can't lie as well. We were on the underground speaking. I've said this before. We were on the underground. We were expecting Chris Eubank Jr. to be there, and we're quite shocked when we walked into the venue and we saw the names on the board, and I saw Denny Shiraz. I was quite shocked, and yeah, it's great to see. And it was like, I don't want to keep rubbing it in, Ben, but yeah, you definitely missed out on an unbelievable day out, especially with a certain Chev Clark. What a bloke, being sat right next to us.
I was just about to say about that.
And yeah, we were watching the press conference. Every time he moved, it was like the entire row was falling. He was such a nice bloke. Obviously, I had a picture of him to rub it in even more for you, Ben. Did the video for you because it was quite funny. Sam went to him. Oh, can we do a video? He went, yeah, no problem. Took me your phone. Didn't plan anything. Just Sam gave him his phone and he went straight on it. And Sam was more shocked. And yeah, it was just a great day out, wasn't it, Sam? We did gamble. I think we need to talk about that. We nearly went all the way up to Wembley just for a Nando's, but thankfully we went to the first check-in area. Looked on our names weren't even on the list on the first check-in area, and we were crapping ourselves then a little bit, walking around to the other entrance, and we got to the other entrance, and this is just unbelievable. They weren't allowing Talk Sport in, so I think his name's Spencer Brown. They weren't letting him in because his name wasn't on the list. But Sam went up and said, oh yeah, Sam Hill and Harry Tovey, the puncher's chance. And she went, oh yeah, there you are, boys. In you go. How mad is that? A little podcast that started 7 or 8 months ago, and we're getting into events before TalkSport got in. Mind blowing.
I'm sure Talksport will say that's because we've been kissing the arse of Turki Alalshikh for the last few months and not on any sort of merit. But we disagree with those rumours. I don't confirm that. But yeah, I echo everything you say. I'm not going to go in on too much detail because ultimately people have come here to listen to us talk boxing, not brag about the amazing things we've been fortunate enough to do. But thank you to everyone for listening who's made this possible. You know, if no one clicked on the videos, then I think if they clicked on the channel and saw 0 views, we probably wouldn't get invited. So, you know, that's our little thank you and shout out, like you say, to Chev Clark. Brilliant bloke. And while we're being nice and while we're on the topic, and before we sort of jump onto what we've got next, massive thank you and shout out to Andy Clark. Brilliant guy. Gave us a shout out on the top tier stream where Ben was obviously at the show. So in return, Andy Clark, new book, The Knockout by Andy Clark. I've very nearly finished it, as you can see. I'm right at the end. It's a really good book for any boxing fans. Pick it up, Amazon, WH Smith, I presume, Waterstones, all of them lot, I imagine. But certainly you can get it on Amazon next day delivery. So that's a little shout out to Andy and pass on to you, Ben. Sorry, the top tier show. Talk us a little bit about that.
Well, you've been up there with me before, so you know how good of a job that Johnny Clark does with them, and like they've been classed as small hall shows, but they are, as the name suggests, they are top tier. And it was a really good night of boxing. He had obviously two matchroom fighters on it as well in George Liddard and Jimmy Sains. Jimmy Sains obviously fighting again this weekend at the Copper Box, but yeah, really good night of fights again. Really competitive fights. We'll shout out Dan Francis, because he always likes a shout out for the matchmaking on the show. But yeah, I got the chance to see Elizabeth Ashoba again in action. You know, she was hunting a fight with Sky Nicholson. But yeah, in terms of an overall show, they're some of the best in the country, and yeah, you can't argue against that, really.
No, absolutely not. And you know, with Elizabeth and Tosin, that's the main two reasons I was jealous that you were able to get down there.
Yeah.
If my girlfriend and or her dad or whoever else that listened to this, I'm glad I was celebrating her birthday and I wasn't there. But there was a big part of me that really wishes I was there to see those two fight. And interestingly, actually, on Elizabeth, we got a message from a guy called Kai Balter. We've seen him a lot in the YouTube comments, so you know, shout out to Kai if you're listening. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he said he's not a big fan of female boxing. He's sort of it's not really something he follows as much at the moment. But he was like, I love Elizabeth because she hits like a bloke, and you can't really question that. She's got unbelievable power that you don't really see in the women's division. And I'm not just saying this because I've met her and because I've got Nigerian connections, but I genuinely think she's one of the most promising fighters I've had the chance to meet, you know, up to this point. I don't think that's an overstatement necessarily.
I think as well, Kai also messaged that her opponent Saturday night, she doesn't get stopped, does she? And she stopped her, and that's very impressive. And yeah, hopefully now she gets a big fight, and she's what, WBC silver? So she's obviously next now. The next fight for her now is a world title fight, and if it isn't, then it's a bit disappointing. So hopefully that gets made. But yeah, Ben's done some cracking work up in Brentwood with the interviews, Tosin Kigjawa and Elizabeth, and yeah, you know, maybe I was watching them, and the one thing I found quite funny with them was you could tell you were by yourself, Ben, with the video. It's like that. It was quite funny, but it was a
Wow,
cracking job.
how he's
It was,
calling him out?
you know, if
How
I
is
was
Carrie
there,
calling him out on the podcast?
I'm not calling him
Disgusting
out. No,
behaviour.
I got something back. If I was there by myself, I wouldn't have done any interviews. So I salute you for that. And you've even done a massive interview that if you aren't excited for August 17th, the event that we're sponsoring, go and listen to Ben's interview with with Dan. It's a cracking interview, and you know, fair play for Ben for going up there, getting more content, and yeah, he's back in the team now for definite, ain't he? You know, there was talks about someone else coming in, but yeah, he deserves to be here, Ben, and he showed why he's probably one of the best out there.
Yeah, I think someone in the YouTube comments said
I'm
we
not
should
used to
replace
him being
Ben
so
with Barry
nice.
Jones. Did you see that? Someone said Barry
You know,
Jones
you
should
know
replace
why?
you.
You know why? You know why I'm being nice, Ben? Because I'm going away for 2 weeks now, and I'm going to have a lot of stick, ain't I? Off you all. I can already
Maybe,
see it. I can
perhaps.
already see it, and I can already see it. So it's coming. I know that. But yeah, fair play, Ben. You know, some cracking interviews up there.
Well, one thing that you're missing out on, Harry, based off of your holiday, or certainly missing out on the opportunity to be able to get down for, is your favourite fighter, the Romford Bull, fighting in the copper box on that same card as Jimmy Sane. So I'll hand over to you. Sell us the Romford Bull. I do this every time because that's your guy. I'll let you do your
You,
thing.
you, you do. You do. You always give it over to me when Johnny Fisher fights. He is in the biggest fight of his career. It's England against Croatia. It's the Savage against the Romford Bull. It could go either way. You know, you see one person talking, Alen Babic's favourite. Listen, Johnny Fisher is unbelievable. He's a heavy hitter, but he can box as well. And I'm expecting a very good performance by him. I'm expecting the best Johnny Fisher we've seen as a pro yet. And but I just can't believe it's Alen Babic. He's making that next big step up against someone of the level of Alen Babic, he was coming off a world title fight last year. Obviously, got stopped in the first round, but it's a dangerous fight. Alen Babic, I think, is team Dillian White, so Dillian White wouldn't bring him on board if he weren't no mug. So it's a tough fight for Johnny Fisher at the Copper Bosch, not the Copper Box, by the way. And yeah, it's a tough one to call. I think I'll be watching it with my like that a little bit when I watch it because I am a little bit nervous because I'm sure one of you aren't going to have Johnny Fisher winning to make me even more worried. But yeah, it's good to see him finally making that step up. And I think if he gets through this fight, which I believe he will, in good fashion as well via a knockout, I think he'll be looking at July 20th when I want to say Solomon Dakers and David Adelaide are fighting for the English title. I think that's probably them. Then that's the next step from there, and then British, and then up to world level. So it's there. It's a shame that it's not England Croatia as well on Saturday. You know, England's just there, but yeah, it's just going to be an incredible fight, and yeah, it's going to be 10 rounds of pure and utter just swinging. You know, I think Alen Babic is just going to be on the front foot non-stop, and it's going to be good as well to see how Johnny Fisher reacts to it as well. Someone who's in the opposite corner actually trying to win, and I think that's also going to be interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I am getting flashbacks though, hearing you say England versus Croatia to I think it was World Cup 2018, and obviously that brings back some sore memories. But hopefully Johnny Fisher can get one back for us. And yeah, that whole card is brilliant. Obviously, Jimmy Sains you watched on the weekend, 5 wins, 5 knockouts. Giorgio Vizioli, we've given a shout out to on the channel before. 3 wins, 3 knockouts. Maisie Rose Courtney, a brilliant up and coming female fighter, and then Reece Bellotti, whose name sprung up a lot on this channel because of that brilliant fight versus Liam Dillon, and he's got a difficult test against Levi Giles for the British and Commonwealth as well. So up from top to bottom, it's not your sort of classic massive British card, but Matchroom have put on a really solid, enjoyable card for domestic fans, which I like that. I like that, particularly when you've got big boys going over to Saudi Arabia. A card like this is perfect just to kind of, break it up a little bit. Some exciting.
Yeah, it's a proper step up for Fisher and We've seen Alen Babic in his last fight against Steve Robinson. He can really bang, so he's going to have to be careful on Saturday night. There's definitely not a fight he's going to take lightly, but if he can get through this one against a very tough opponent, then, like Harry said, this English British title level then next to him, I think, and trying to get some titles under him and then build from here then.
100%. You talk about Reece Bellotti, he's in a very good fight, ain't he, for the British and Commonwealth title against Levi Giles. 12 rounds, that's going to be a war. John Hedges, I remember him making his pro debut a couple of years ago. He's fighting for his first title, the Southern Area Cruiserweight title against Lewis Oakford. somebody's always got to go in that one, so that's going to be another decent fight. And you know, Louis Paquette, um, he's fighting a certain Amni Bucketta, who fought our favourite heavyweight Welsh boxer, Moses Charlie, last time out. And yeah, he looked really good on his last performance against another one that we're going to be seeing very soon, Tovey, a beast boxer. It's another brilliant fight, and you talk about it's great to see a domestic card like this. We've seen it a couple of weeks ago with Denny and Cash. That undercard was incredible, but this one, it's a proper domestic clash, ain't it? They're all, you look at the card, there's three 50-50s maybe on it when you look at it. You know, Levi Giles, he could get the win over Bellotti, and Lewis Oakford is probably going to come and win, and he wants that 7-area title, so that's going to be another war. But yeah, I for one, I can't wait to see the Romford Bowl back in there, and when he gets the win, which I'm hoping he does, because if he doesn't, it's going to be, I don't know where he goes from there. You know, what's his level then? You know, when you think about it.
Yeah, we've said it a couple of times. I think every fight, you need a big performance from him because he seems like such a great fighter and seems like he has such high potential, but it's very difficult to see in heavyweights because there is such a big gap between the very, very top and that sort of next level. So yeah, it's difficult. I really hope Johnny Fisher does kick on because I think it's great to have more British prospects and British fighters at that higher level. But like you say, it's a tough test and one he'll have to get through. What we will do, Harry, this week, this is our kind gesture for you before you go away. We're going to do this card as our predictions, I think, rather than the American card, which maybe you'd have a little. So there's no excuses. This is your guy. You should be predictions this week. So we'll talk a little bit about that card over in America and some of those fights, and then we'll jump back to this for the predictions on the Boxing News app as usual. So yeah, this weekend William Cepeda fighting over in Ontario, as well as O'Shaki Foster, Shakur Stevenson, and Keyshawn Davis, making up what I think is a top rank show. Two world title fights on there. Keyshawn Davis, obviously a top fighter as well. Just a lot of really great fights over in America. We won't go into too much detail. We always give a bit more time to domestic, but some really good fights there, I think.
Yeah, definitely. There's it'd be interesting to watch Shakur Stevenson again after his last performance. I think it set the world alight, but he is classed as one of the best fighters out of America, and we'll probably be looking to put on a bit more of a statement in this fight. And then again, O'Shaki Foster, one of the best at his weight class. There's just so many talented fighters out in America, but probably the one I'd be most looking forward to watching is Keyshawn Davis, because every time I've seen him, I've just been very impressed with him.
Yeah, that's something that you can't say about Shakur Stevenson in his last fight. I wasn't very impressed with him there. And I think if he is victorious on Saturday night, you look at the names that he could face. I think it's Lomachenko they're putting him up against. That's the fight to make, ain't it? You know, he gets through that Saturday night, defends his world title again, hopefully in a much more entertaining fight where you don't have to put it on times 30 speed to get through it without falling asleep. And yeah, Keyshawn Davis, like you say, Ben, he's a very exciting fighter to watch. And I could see by your smile, he's probably one of your favourites, and he's definitely one of my favourites as well. I'm looking forward to seeing him fight. And yeah, it's just another brilliant weekend of boxing. And we talk about this a lot. When is a bad weekend of boxing now? There's not. There's never an off weekend. And it's just another, domestically, there's a big fight card. Internationally, there's a big fight card. And yeah, it's great to see, ain't it? The boxing's flying at the moment, and it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere anytime soon with the fights being made.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And obviously, you guys have mentioned Keyshawn Davis and Shakur Stevenson, but to be honest, I'm really looking forward to seeing William Cepeda fight as well. I think after that Maxi Hughes performance last time out, I think we underestimated him a little bit going into that Maxi Hughes fight, and that might have been some blind optimism on our part. but he's an unbelievable fighter. And currently, without without that world title, and with the likes of Shakur Stevenson, Vasil Lomachenko, and Denis Berinchik, people like that at that weight category with world titles, there's a lot of brilliant fights. We talk about Mark Chamberlain coming up through. There's a lot of brilliant fighters at that level, and it's another one that I want to see because it's another option for who I think is deserving of a world title fight sometime very, very soon.
Yeah, you don't get the 30-0 and you not be impressive as a fighter. Yeah, I agree with you there. He definitely deserves a big fight after this fight on Saturday night. It's going to be a good one. And I was very impressed with him against Maxi Hughes. I didn't underestimate him. I just went with my theory of backing the Brits, like I always do, no matter what. Even though I know they're going to lose, I always back the Brit in anything, because if I do get the fight and I do win the predictions, then I can always be cocky and say, well, look at this. But yeah, it's going to be another decent fight. That Maxi Hughes performance was incredible, and yeah, giving that world title shot next, I think is the right way to go about it.
I'm just going to say as well, I actually predicted him to win our fight. I was just saying I predicted him to win our fight, and same as I'm going to get the predictions right this weekend, I think.
Fighting talk. It's cold. I respect it.
I can't believe that. He's been away for 2 weeks and he's given it this. Chill out. If you don't win now, mind, it's quite embarrassing. And when I'm on holidays and when I win, you'll be having a lot of messages. Don't you worry.
Of course, by the pool, dropping messages. So yeah, let's get up the thing, get the Boxing News app, put our official predictions in, locking in. No changes, Harry. I know what you're like. For this one,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. We'll say that's the case. But yeah, so John Hedges versus Lewis Oakford at cruiserweight 10-rounder is the first fight on the predictors app. There's only the 3 fights. I'm going to kick it off with a Hedges points decision, I think.
Since Harry always takes forever to make his predictions, I will go next. I've got Hedges points as well.
No, I'm just doing what we were doing, Ben, when you were away. I'm getting up the WhatsApp chat right now and I'm seeing what you did say because I can't remember. Yeah, I've got John Hedges by... Have you seen this, Lewis Oakford? I know we're going off topic here, but his last fight was against Robbie Chapman. I think, is that the caretaker?
Yeah.
Camden caretaker?
Camden
caretaker, that's the one.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you both there. Hedges, points decision. I just got the WhatsApp group just open then, and I just read it.
Just so you could copy us. Fair enough. And the other one is, of course, Reece Blotti Giles. We said that one, super featherweight, brilliant fight. I'm gonna let Ben go first on this one because I went first on the last one. What's your prediction?
I think Reece Blotti is going to get another stoppage. I was surprised this one that there wasn't Michael Gomez Jr. that was facing Reece Blotti, to be honest, but I think that could be potentially the next fight. But yeah, Reece Blotti by stoppage this weekend I'm going for.
Listen, he was in a fight of the year contender, weren't he, last time out, Reece Blotti against Liam Dillon, in an unbelievable fight there. He hasn't had a stoppage win since 2022. So yeah, I'm going to go Blotti points.
I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going same as Harry as opposed to same as Ben. I might live to regret that one, but yeah, I think he's going to get the points decision.
And that's why we're going to lose this weekend. That's why we're going to lose this weekend. That's how Sam's won. Ben's won.
Almost certainly. Now, Johnny Fisher, Harry, I'll let you start off on this one because I don't think you'll take too long to make this prediction. What we saying?
Fisher KO round a late finish for Johnny Fisher.
Sorry, I was having a bit of a brain fart there when I was thinking and realised that we run a podcast and we should probably talk as well, rather than just thinking in our head. I'm going to back you. I'm going to go same with the Johnny Fisher knockout, but instead of that, late knockout you're going to go for. I think he's going to flatten Alen Babic fairly early on. I think he's going to bring the pace, and I think he might finish Alen Babic.
I like it. But the other thing when you look into this fight, I won't disagree with people that say potentially Johnny Fisher might be dropped for the first time as a pro. I think if he does, then he'd probably take a lot from that fight. But yeah, you could argue both. But I see Ben smiling, so I don't know what he's going for. Is
No,
he agreeing, or is he gonna?
we'll all agree in this weekend. I think I'm actually agreeing with Sam. I think he's gonna get quite an early stoppage, but I can't see this fight going more than a couple of rounds just because of how much of big hitters both fighters are. So I'm gonna go Fisher. I'll say Fisher fourth round.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm basing that off not off necessarily a bad indictment on Alen Babic as a fighter, but that I think one of them is going to get a knockout earlier on. And I think Fisher's the more likely of the two because, like you say, they're both such vicious knockout artists, so to speak. Though artist seems like the wrong word because there's not much artistic about what they do. It's pretty violent. It's pretty surgical, and they tend to just get people out of there. Is there anything else left to discuss? I know we do this every week, and there nearly always is something. And Harry always plucks some niche fact of some fighter that I've forgotten about. So is there anything we haven't necessarily discussed this week that maybe you wanted to or you'd planned to?
It's not really boxing, is it? But KSI's making his return, ain't he? 1 versus 2. I don't know why they're doing it that way around. Against what was it, Slim and Anthony Taylor? It's a carnival, ain't it? It's a circus, and yeah, I don't really like that sort of return fight for KSI. I don't get why he's doing it, but it's entertaining. I think I'm going to be watching, so I'm not complaining about it. But I would much rather him just take on one of them instead of two of them because it's less risky, in my opinion. There.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think I don't mind the fights. I don't care for the 2v1. I think that's a little bit sort of farcical, but it is what it is. But this week, however, sorry, I've come up with a fighter that we forgot to mention. Aaron Bird recently won the Celtic title up in Scotland. Welsh fighter that we watched fight at our first ever show. And was he possibly actually the first fight of the night? I think he was against Ben Thomas. So he actually is the first fighter we covered as a channel, and now is a Celtic champion up in Scotland. So fair play to him, well deserving of that. Aaron, he's a really tidy fighter.
Yeah, he's a very good fighter, and congratulations to him to go up to Scotland and get a result up there, especially after being dropped as well in the fight, is some achievement.
Yeah. Normally away fighters, they don't get the nod, do they, when they go away and fight? But yeah, as you say, getting dropped in the 6th round and then to win on points is very impressive. And he's only 5-0, so there's some big things to come from Aaron Bird, former Welsh international as an amateur. And I think the other fighter we need to talk about, which is it was a bit sad seeing, obviously Rashid Omar, another Welsh fighter, getting stopped over in Belfast, which was sad to see. But I think out of all the boxers we've seen, he's probably the only one that's willing to take any fight, I remember Tony saying he's up for anything. He don't care. He just wants to fight and provide for his family. And yeah, it was disappointing to see the stoppage. People are saying it's knockout of the year contender. It's definitely up there. But yeah, he'll be back, and congratulations for Aaron Bird. He's putting Welsh boxing back on the map. And didn't you, in your interview with Dan Francis, Ben, there should be another Welshman winning a Celtic title very soon.
Yeah, hopefully, if they can get that over the line, hopefully we'll hear by the end of this week. But yeah, if Jordan Withers can get a Celtic title fight, that August 17th gets even bigger then for all of us, really. Like, it's already a massive night, a historic night, as Dan said on the interview. But yeah, really looking forward to August 17th now, and hopefully it'll be our first Celtic title fight that we'd be watching live.
I wonder what time it's going to finish as well. You know, he's putting on these 10 rounders, 8 rounders. We could be looking at going into the past midnight. So yeah, fair play to Dan Francis. He's put on, as we said last week, an incredible card, and it's great to see, ain't it? Welsh boxing is flying again post-pandemic, and yeah, long may it continue. And it's going to be an incredible night, August 17th. History is going to be made. And I don't know, but has there ever been a Celtic title fight in Wales before? I could be completely wrong, but I don't think there has been. But I could be, like I said, I could be wrong
Not too
there.
sure.
So there could be history-making fights. There could be 2 history-making fights there, and our little old podcast is one of the main sponsors for it, which is mad.
Why you say little old podcast? That seems, first of all, we're new. We're not old at all. We're actually very young. But other than that, we're big time now. We're big time these days, which I obviously say tongue in cheek. I don't mean that. There's certainly a lot bigger, but we're en route. We're en route. And I think that pretty much wraps it up for another week, another podcast, and another, a brilliant week of fighting, like you say, Harry. Like I previously mentioned on the channel, there's the interviews from Ben's Top Tier show. There's some interviews from the press conference at Wembley. There's that preview as well if you want to talk a little bit more Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois, that me and Harry recorded as well. Other than that, full audio episodes out on Spotify, shorts on YouTube and Instagram, and all that good stuff. And I think that pretty much is everything that we need to cover. And we'll catch you all next week. Bosh.
Punches chance. Punches chance podcast.